Now, I've been fishing clear water for decades. And what I mean by clear water, I mean sometimes it's ultra clear like bath water. But most of the time it's 8 to 10 foot visibility, which I know for you is really clear water. And I've gotten really accustomed to it and proficient at doing it. So I want to give you my little tricks that I use in clear water. If you ever come across that, don't be intimidated by it, guys. It's actually gonna be very productive. I actually enjoy it now and prefer it. So one of the key things about it is the lures that you choose. So I'm gonna go my top 5 baits that I use in clear water, starting with translucent topwater baits, specifically the walking baits and the poppers. Translucent, what I mean by that is you can hold it up to the light and the light will go through it. It doesn't mean it's clear, like, you know, colorless like a window, but it is, the light will go through it. So it's a little more subtle, and you can still use, you know, your shad colors, perch color, any kind of bait fish color, and I would highly recommend that. But because they're subtle and more translucent in clear water, it kind of conceals itself a little bit better, and the bass, you know, if they're gonna bite it, you know, they typically do out of curiosity. They're not quite sure if it's real or not. If you use a solid color, it looks fake in the clear water. So translucent is best. Work them real slow, just a top water walking bait. You just work it back and forth with long pauses in between. I like to work them along docks because, you know, this provides shade. And in clear water, shade is the key. You really fish those shade pockets. So docks offer a lot of shade. So work those poppers and walking baits along that. If you've got some sunken brush piles, things like that that can offer shade and protection, or some thick weeds, working it over the top of those sometimes calls those bass right out of deep water. Outside weed lines. A lot of times the bass will cruise that. I'm talking those bass will be 15, 20 foot deep. This is that kind of clear water. Those weeds grow that deep. Here's the thing with topwater, guys, in clear water. Typically with topwaters, it calls bass from farther distance horizontally. You're fishing it shallow, and bass that are out in longer distances will come in. That still works in clear water, but you've got an added dimension with clear water, and that is depth. You can call fish up from deeper water than you normally would in dirty water. So fishing it over 20 foot of water is not unusual. If you fish it over a rocky point, or a point that's got some stumps or scattered boulders on it, all the better. Or a deep weed line, like I just mentioned, it's 20 foot deep. You can fish a popper or a walking bait right over the top of that, and it seems really weird. You're in deep water, and all of a sudden a smallmouth comes screaming out of it like a Polaris Milson, and bam, you know, comes clear out of water with it in his mouth. Man, that is so exciting. A largemouth will do it too. So don't be afraid to fish it over deeper water. That's a key thing in this kind of water. The next bait has become a staple in my arsenal, and that is a soft plastic stick bait, you know, like a Yum Dinger or a Senko, any that kind of style bait. Works great in clear water. Stick with your watermelon seed, or your green pumpkins, right? Those work really well for clear water conditions. The normal 5-inch size works great, guys. Don't be afraid to use them. And I catch a lot of fish, especially if the fish are in like weeds, or they're in sunken brush piles, or they're under docks. A 5-inch works really good. But a little bit in open water, I'll downsize to that 4-inch size. That tends to get more bites for me. So a 4-inch size bait in the same colors works really, really well. There's 2 ways to rig it that work the best in clear water. One is the wacky rig. Most people rig it that way. That's where you take the hook, put it right in the middle, and then that bait kind of undulates as it falls. It gives a lot of extra action. In clear water, sight and visual appeal mean a lot, and that'll attract the bass from further distance when it's got that action to it. So the wacky rig works really well. The problem with a wacky rig is that the hook is exposed, and you can get snagged in a lot of stuff. When those fish are up in those weeds and sunken brush piles and flooded bushes and trees, wacky rig, you're gonna get hung up a lot. So that's when I flip over to a Texas rig style. Again, totally weightless. Texas rig in this manner means the way the hook is rigged, not because it's got a weight on it. So keep it weightless, but now it's not gonna get hung up. You can now throw it in and around all that stuff that I just mentioned, and you're not gonna worry about getting snagged. It's also a really good bait to skip up under those docks. So don't be afraid to do that too, because sometimes those big bass lurk underneath those docks in clear water, and skipping a little Senko underneath there is what it takes to get them. The next bait are thin jerk baits, like the Rapala, or Rapala, some guys call them Rapalas. A thin jerk bait or cotton cordell, these type of things, they're pencil type stick bait. These work surprisingly well spring, summer, and fall. A lot of folks think that the deeper diving suspending type is the only type you can throw, and you can only throw them in the early spring. No, these ones are shallow divers, go to 1 to 2 foot deep. They have a real tight wiggle to them, and they're certainly not limited to cold water. They work excellent in the warmer water, especially, to me, the warmer the water, the better they work, especially in clear water. It really looks like an injured minnow, and those bass just cannot resist it. Throw it out over the tops of those flooded bushes, over the submerged weeds. You know, you don't want, it's got treble hooks. If it's got emergent weeds, you don't want to throw it in that because it's going to foul hook and you're going to bring back a wad of weeds. But along those docks that I just mentioned, you know, you throw it out there, let it sit, wait for the ripples to dissipate, and then twitch, 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 let it sit, let the ripples dissipate, twitch, twitch, let the ripples dissipate, and twitch, twitch. These baits are really light, so I'll throw them on spinning outfits using 6 to 8 pound test line. Fluorocarbon line is what I like to use, or monofilament. Either one works really well. Monofilament might actually be a better choice because it floats. But wait for that bite, and when the fish, typically they hit it on the top, and sometimes they come up and they pop it, they swirl on it, and they don't take it right away. So if you see that strike, don't set the hook right away, because you might get a bunch of treble hooks coming at your face at Mach 80. Wait, let that fish grab it and wait till you feel them tug on it. Not when they hit it, you're gonna feel that strike, you're gonna feel that twitch, but you feel that weight when they pull back on you. That's what you want. You feel them pulling on it. Now they've got it in their mouth, and you can set the hook and get them, reel them in. That's real critical of fishing these baits. Sometimes just letting it sit there and float on the surface is all it takes, and suddenly a bass will come up and annihilate it after it's been sitting for like 20 seconds. So a real fun bait to use. Don't limit it to cold water. Use it during the warmer months, and you're gonna have yourself a blast in clear water. Now, like I mentioned, they have treble hooks, which means they can get snagged on stuff. So if you're in areas where there's a lot of flooded bushes and timber and a lot of weeds, you know, lily pads, things like that, you can switch over to using a soft plastic stick bait, like a Fluke, right? Use that weedless, rig it weedless, weightless, and now you can use it in those areas without fear of getting hung up. And they can be just as effective. I use the straight white one, but you can use alewife, you know, in the white and silver colors, even a green pumpkin, or any kind of the green pumpkin, tilapia, those type of things that got a green pumpkin hue to them with some sparkles in it. Tilapia from Big Bite Baits is one of my favorites. And just use that to slowly, softly twitch it and work it across all these areas that are real weedy and snaggy. And you don't work it real hard, just nice soft twitches is all it takes. And those work really, really well in clear water. Now, another bait I like to use, if you've been watching my videos anytime, you know that I love spinnerbaits. And spinnerbaits work really well in clear water, despite their appearance. These big clunky metal things that don't resemble any kind of bait fish or forage in the water. So why would a bass hit it? Well, it looks alive. That's the key. I use big ones. Yeah, despite, you know, many people saying, oh, downsize, use an 1/8 ounce, use a 1/4 ounce spinnerbait. No, I do the opposite. I'm using a 3/4 ounce bait, and I'll tell you why. The key in clear water is speed when it comes to these large baits. You're looking for a reaction bite, and this is going to elicit a reaction bite. You're throwing it out and you're burning it back just under the surface really fast, maybe a foot or two under the surface, if that. So to burn it back really quick, if you're using a lighter bait, it will lean over on its side. You just can't burn it back quick. It does tip over on its side. So a 3/4 ounce spinnerbait will stay true. It'll track really well. I also use a double willow or a double Indiana blade, silver or gold blades. Those have a little bit less resistance, so they're less prone to tipping over. And they have a lot of flash and vibration to them. And you think, boy, I don't need a lot of vibration in clear water. Well, if they're in those weeds and those brush piles and that thick cover, you need a little bit of vibration to call them up out of it, and this does that. You know, bait flinging right by them at Mach 80, they have to either bite it or lose it forever. So the strikes you get are often vicious. They annihilate it. I'll add a trailer onto them. This again aids with the buoyancy, aids with tracking it, help it keep it go straight. If you're fishing it and it is tracking to the side and you've done all this stuff, check your trailer. The trailer has to be straight, has to be true. You've got to make sure that it's aligned on that spinnerbait perfectly straight. If it's off by a little bit, it's going to make your spinnerbait track to its side a little bit. So make sure that's on right. And even if you check that and it's still not tracking right, you just take the trailer off, flip it around, rig it back on, make sure it's nice and straight. Sometimes that's all it takes. It may be off just a little bit to the point where you can't see it, but that's what's causing it to track a little bit on the side. If you've done all that, hey, take the trailer off and do it again. And if it still goes on its side, then you can tweak the blades, the arm, just tweak it to the left or right. If it's going over this way, then tweak the blades over this way a little bit. Or if it's tweaking this way, tweak the arm over this way a little bit. And that generally brings it up and makes it run straight. So those little tweaks. I don't use trailer hooks. The reason I don't use trailer hooks is because you can get it snagged in things. And a lot of times I'm throwing these spinnerbaits in and around all this kind of cover. And I don't want it to get hung up. So, and it also interferes with the trailer too. If you're getting follows or you're getting fish that are nipping at it, they're telling you, man, it's almost right, but something's not quite right. And typically that's the color. So change the color a little bit, make subtle changes, don't make drastic changes. So for example, I'll go from gold blades to silver blades, or I might go from a white skirt to a white and chartreuse, or if I've got a white trailer to a chartreuse trailer, right? Subtle changes oftentimes is all it takes for get them to commit. Again, you're reeling it really fast, so they don't get a lot of time to examine it. They're just gonna whack it. So don't leave out the spinnerbait in clear water. And then finally, one of the baits I like to throw the most is a finesse jig, a small jig, like a 1/4 ounce jig. Maybe even an 1/8 ounce, but a 1/4 ounce works best for me. And again, downsize that trailer. You still want some action to it, so like a small baby rage craw is a great choice as a trailer. Keep it natural, the brown colors, the green hues. If you've got some really dingy water, but we're not talking about that, that's when I use the blues, you know, the black and blues and those type of things. But in clear water, watermelon, maybe a little bit of hint of blue in it. Those are great colors to use, green pumpkin. You can use it on spinning gear on rocky areas. That's pretty traditional when people are fishing for smallies. So don't leave those out. It's a ball head jig typically, and those work great in rocky areas. They don't get hung up. Even if they do snag a little bit because the eye is straight up on the top, they can pop off pretty easily. You can either move along the bank and get a different angle, or move your boat around and just give it a little pop and it'll come right off. So those are great for fishing rocky areas, but don't forget throwing them into weeds and skipping them under docks like you would larger traditional jigs. A lot of guys flip and pitch jigs. Do it with the finesse jigs too. That's a little kind of unsung hero in clear water, what people don't do, and I have a blast doing it. So if I'm fishing in clear open water and rocky areas, I'm usually using spinning gear. I'm using 6 to 8 pound test, open water, no big deal. Fluorocarbon line, because fluorocarbon is more abrasion resistant than braid when I'm using fishing rocky areas. However, if you're flipping and pitching in all this cover into thick weeds and the flooded timber and bushes, those type of things, stumps, that's when braid works really well. And I'm using light braid, nothing too heavy, maybe 15 pound, right in that 15 to 20 pound braid, nothing too heavy. And I'm using a lot of mono backing on my reel, because I just want that braid at the end. I'm not using any leader or anything like that, because the braid is where it works really well in that cover. And even despite having clear water, because those fish are in those snags and in that weeds, the braid gets concealed pretty well. So, and that braid is what you need to cut through all that stuff when you hook the fish. So adding a leader that's monofilament or fluorocarbon kind of defeats the purpose there. So don't think, oh, it's clear water, I have to use a leader. No. That's not the case. It's how you're using it, where you're using it. In this case, because they're in flooded weeds or bushes or heavy cover, that braid is going to suit you well. So just flip and pitch it like you normally would and be surprised how well that works. So those are my top 5 baits for clear water and tactics too. I hope that helps. Hope next time you can encounter those real clear water conditions, you catch a lot of fish. For more tips and tricks like this, visit bassresource.com.